We live in a world that is often consumed by fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. These fears can stop us in our tracks, freeze us in our place, and keep us from taking the necessary steps to move forward. We all experience it. This internal voice that tells us we're not good enough, that we won't succeed, or that we're bound to make mistakes. But here's the truth. It is in those very moments of doubt, those moments of uncertainty, that we have the most power to transform our lives. The key is not to avoid fear, but to step into it, to take action in spite of it, to push through it with the knowledge that our fear is not the barrier, it is the catalyst. It's the sign that we are on the verge of something important, something meaningful, and something that will help us grow into the person we are meant to become. We often think of fear as something to be avoided, something that will keep us safe from harm. But what we fail to realize is that fear is not our enemy. It is, in fact, a necessary part of the process of growth and self-discovery. Fear exists because we are being challenged, because we are stepping outside of our comfort zone and into new territory. And it is precisely this discomfort, this uncertainty, that holds the potential for transformation. As the philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once said, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. We don't always know what lies ahead, and we can't always predict the outcome, but it is in the act of moving forward, of facing our fears head on, that we begin to understand ourselves and the world around us. Think about any significant achievement in your life, the moments that have defined you, the moments that have shaped you. Were they easy? Were they free of fear, free of doubt? Of course not. They were the moments when you pushed yourself, when you took a leap of faith, when you decided that even though you didn't have all the answers, you were going to try anyway. And in doing so, you grew. You became more confident, more capable, and more resilient. These moments of courage are what define us. It's not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move through it that separates those who succeed from those who don't. Do one thing every day that scares you, Eleanor Roosevelt famously said. The key word here is do. It's not about waiting for the fear to disappear. It's about doing it anyway. But there's a deeper truth here, one that goes beyond merely taking action in spite of fear. It's about understanding that fear, in many ways, is a gift. It's a signal that we are on the right path, that we are stepping into uncharted territory, that we are becoming more than we were before. In those moments of fear, we are forced to face our limitations, to confront our vulnerabilities, and to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers. And that in itself is an incredibly powerful thing. It is through this confrontation with our fears, this willingness to be vulnerable and open to the unknown, that we begin to unlock the potential for growth. It is important to realize that fear does not just show up when we are facing monumental tasks or life-changing decisions. Fear is also present in the small, everyday moments. The decision to speak up in a meeting, the choice to share our true feelings with someone we care about, the willingness to step into the unknown, even in the smallest of ways. These everyday acts of courage are just as important, just as transformative as the big, dramatic moments. It is in these small acts of bravery that we build the muscle of courage. Every time we face a fear, no matter how small, we are training ourselves to become more resilient, more capable, and more willing to step into the discomfort of life. The key is not to let fear hold you back, but to use it as fuel. Every time you feel that pang of doubt, that voice in your head telling you that you're not good enough, use it as a reminder that you are on the edge of something great. You are being stretched, pushed to become something more, something better. Fear is not something to shy away from. It is something to embrace. When we face our fear, when we lean into it, we become the person who can handle whatever life throws our way. As the great writer Mark Twain once said, courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to move forward in the face of it, to act despite it, to trust that we are capable of handling whatever comes next. Let's talk for a moment about what it means to be brave. Bravery is not about being fearless. It is about feeling the fear, acknowledging it, and doing what needs to be done anyway. We all have moments when we feel like we can't go on, when the obstacles seem insurmountable, when the fear feels too heavy to carry. But it is in those moments that true bravery is born. True bravery is not about pretending that we aren't afraid. It is about moving forward with the knowledge that we are capable of handling the unknown, of overcoming the obstacles, of becoming stronger and more capable in the process. Fear will always be a part of our lives. It's inevitable. But it is not the fear that matters. It's how we respond to it. If we let fear dictate our actions, if we let it control us, we will never reach our full potential. But if we face fear head on, if we allow it to be the catalyst for change, for growth, for action, then fear becomes the very thing that propels us forward. It becomes the force that drives us to become the best version of ourselves. As you move forward in life, I want you to remember this. Fear is not your enemy. It is a sign that you are on the verge of something important. It is a reminder that you are pushing your boundaries, that you are becoming more than you were before. And it is in those moments of fear that you have the greatest opportunity for growth. Embrace it, don't shrink from it. Use it as the fuel that drives you toward your goals, toward your potential, and toward a future that is greater than anything you could have imagined. The only way to conquer fear is to face it head on, to move through it, and to come out the other side stronger, more confident, and more capable than ever before. When we think about the idea of accepting ourselves for who we are, there's often a subtle resistance that arises. We have been taught from a young age that in order to succeed, in order to be worthy, we must be something more, something different from what we are. We are bombarded by images of what we should look like, how we should behave, what we should accomplish, and we internalize those standards. This constant striving for something beyond our own selves can be both inspiring and exhausting. But there comes a point in our lives when we must stop and ask ourselves, what if the most important thing we could do is to accept ourselves exactly as we are? What if in embracing who we truly are, flaws and all, we begin to unlock the potential for true growth, true peace, and true success? The process of self-acceptance is not one of complacency. It is not about giving up, resigning ourselves to mediocrity, or being satisfied with stagnation. Rather, self-acceptance is the foundation for genuine progress. It is an acknowledgement of our worth, not because we are perfect or without fault, but because we are human, and in our humanity lies the power to change, to grow, and to evolve. As Carl Jung wisely said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And it is in the journey toward becoming who we truly are, in the pursuit of self-acceptance, that we can begin to find the strength and courage to move forward in life. It is crucial to understand that self-acceptance is not about ignoring our flaws or pretending that everything is perfect. It is about acknowledging those imperfections, those parts of ourselves that we often wish to hide or reject, and understanding that they are just as much a part of who we are as our strengths and talents. Our flaws do not diminish our value. They do not make us less worthy of love, success, or happiness. On the contrary, it is through the acceptance of our flaws that we can begin to embrace the full scope of who we are. We all have scars, whether visible or invisible, and it is in these scars that our unique beauty lies. The very things that we try to hide or suppress are often the things that make us who we are. Stronger, more empathetic, more resilient. It is in accepting these parts of ourselves that we free ourselves from the chains of self-doubt and self-criticism. Self-acceptance is not an easy journey. It is a process that requires patience, kindness, and compassion toward ourselves and others. In a world that constantly tells us to do more, be more, achieve more, it can feel like an impossible task to simply stand still and say, I am enough. But here's the truth. You are enough. Not because you are accomplished everything you set out to do, not because you are perfect, but because you are human. And in your humanity, there is value, there is potential, there is beauty. As the author Brené Brown said, you are imperfect, you are wired for struggle, but you are worthy of love and belonging. This is the foundation of self-acceptance, that we are worthy of love, not because we are flawless, but because we are enough, just as we are. One of the greatest challenges to self-acceptance is the comparison game. In today's world, we are constantly exposed to the curated lives of others through social media, advertisements, and the media in general. We see people who seem to have it all: perfect relationships, perfect careers, perfect bodies, and we begin to believe that we are not enough because we don't measure up to these ideals. We compare our behind scenes with their highlight reels, and we wonder why we feel inadequate. But the truth is, what we see on the surface is rarely the full story. Everyone is fighting their own battles, facing their own struggles, and carrying their own burdens. We are all imperfect, and that is what makes us human. Rather than comparing ourselves to others, we must learn to compare ourselves to who we were yesterday. We must focus on our own growth, on the progress we have made, no matter how small it may seem. We are not in competition with anyone but ourselves. The person you were yesterday is your only true competition. It is through this lens of self-comparison rather than external comparison that we begin to embrace the concept of self-acceptance. The journey towards self-acceptance is not about perfection, it is about progress. It is about learning to be content with who we are right now while also striving to be better tomorrow. Self-acceptance also requires us to confront the stories we tell ourselves. We all have narratives that we carry with us. Stories about who we are, what we are capable of, and what we deserve. Many of these stories are shaped by our past experiences, by the judgments of others, and by the limitations we have internalized. But the key to self-acceptance lies in rewriting those stories. We are not defined by our past. We are not defined by the mistakes we have made, the failures we have experienced, or the things we wish we could change. We are defined by who we choose to become in the present moment. As the writer Marianne Williamson once said, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. The fear of our own potential, the fear of stepping into our greatness, is often what keeps us from fully accepting ourselves. But when we step into that power, when we embrace who we truly are, we open the door to a life of unlimited possibility. Self-acceptance also requires us to let go of the need for external validation. We live in a world where we are constantly seeking approval from others, whether it's from our peers, our family, or society at large. We seek praise, recognition, and affirmation to feel good about ourselves. But true self-acceptance comes when we no longer need external validation to know our worth. When we learn to accept ourselves, flaws and all, we no longer need others to tell us that we are good enough. We know it, we feel it, we believe it. As the poet Rumi said, "Don't be satisfied with stories how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth." In the end, self-acceptance is the foundation of everything. It is the key to living a life of purpose, of meaning, and of fulfillment. When we accept ourselves fully and completely, when we embrace our strengths and our flaws, we unlock the power to live authentically. We are no longer bound by the limitations of our past or the expectations of others. We are free to be who we truly are, to pursue what truly matters, and to create the life we desire. Self-acceptance is not the end of the journey, it is the beginning. It is the starting point for all transformation, growth, and change. When we accept ourselves, we give ourselves permission to be great, and in doing so, we inspire others to do the same. The future is something that all of us are constantly aware of, yet we rarely pause to reflect on what it truly represents. It looms before us like an uncharted territory, a vast expanse of uncertainty that we are all hurtling toward day by day. And because of its unknown nature, it often evokes fear, doubt, and hesitation. But the truth is, the future is not something that happens to us. It's something we create. It is a canvas upon which we have the power to paint, to shape, and to mold according to the choices we make in the present moment. The future, in its essence, is not an enemy to be feared. It's a space full of infinite possibilities, a realm where anything is possible if we dare to envision it, and more importantly, if we dare to move toward it with courage and conviction. One of the most powerful things we can do as we face the future is to embrace it with a clear vision. We must have a purpose, a direction that guides us through the uncertainty. Without a vision, the future becomes a place of confusion and chaos, a place where we drift aimlessly, buffeted by the winds of circumstance. But when we have a vision, when we know where we are headed and why we are heading there, the future becomes a destination, a journey with meaning and intention. As the great philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." When we have a clear purpose, the obstacles, the setbacks, and the uncertainties become not walls, but stepping stones. Challenges to be overcome as we move forward toward our goal. The key here is not to fear the future, but to engage with it. Too often we are consumed with worry about what lies ahead, consumed with the what-ifs and the endless possibilities of failure. But in doing so, we lose sight of what is truly important, that the future is not something that happens to us, but something that we create. We are not passive observers in the unfolding of our lives. We are active participants. We have the power to shape our future through the choices we make, the actions we take, and the mindset we adopt. The future is not a fixed reality. It is a space filled with potential, and we are the ones who have the power to bring that potential Imagine for a moment what your life could look like if you approached the future with a sense of excitement and curiosity rather than fear and hesitation. Imagine waking up each day with a sense of purpose, knowing that the steps you take today will shape the person you become tomorrow. The best way to predict your future is to create it, Abraham Lincoln once said, and those words are as true today as they were when they were first spoken. The future is not something that is handed to us on a silver platter. It is something we must create, one decision at a time, one action at a time. The path to the future is not marked by a clear signpost that tells us exactly where to go. Instead, it is a road that we must carve out for ourselves. This road is not always easy to navigate. There will be moments when the future feels overwhelming, when the uncertainty becomes too much to bear. There will be moments when we doubt ourselves, when we wonder if we are on the right path or if we are capable of reaching our destination. But it is precisely in these moments that the power of vision comes into play. When we have a clear sense of where we are headed, when we have a strong vision of the future we want to create, we can keep moving forward, even in the face of doubt and uncertainty. It is this sense of purpose that propels us, that keeps us grounded when the world around us feels like it is falling apart. This is not to say that the future will be easy or that it will unfold in the way we expect. The future is unpredictable and there are no guarantees. Life will throw challenges our way, some expected, some completely unforeseen. But it is in the way we respond to those challenges that our future is truly shaped. As the great writer and thinker James Allen put it, "You are today where your thoughts have brought you. You will be tomorrow where your thoughts take you." The thoughts we cultivate today, the vision we hold for our future, have the power to shape the course of our lives. If we live in fear of the unknown, if we focus only on the obstacles and the difficulties, then that is the future we will create. But if we approach the future with a sense of hope, with a vision of possibility and growth, then we open the door to a future that is full of potential. It's important to understand that the future is not something that simply arrives. It is something we must actively shape. We do not wait for the future to reveal itself to us. We must reach out and seize it. The future is not a passive experience. It is something we engage with, something we create through our actions, our choices, and our mindset. This is why it's so crucial to have a clear vision. Without a vision, the future becomes a haze of uncertainty. But with a vision, we can see the path ahead, even if it is not immediately clear. We can move forward with purpose and conviction, trusting that every step we take brings us closer to the person we are meant to become. The beauty of the future is that it is filled with infinite possibilities. There is no limit to what we can achieve, no limit to the person we can become. But these possibilities do not unfold by accident. They unfold when we choose to step into the future with courage, with purpose, and with a willingness to embrace the unknown. The future is not something to fear. It is a space of limitless potential, a place where anything is possible. But it is up to us to move toward it, to shape it with our actions, our vision, and our courage. The future is waiting. What will you do today to shape it? In today's world where change is constant and the landscape around us is continuously shifting, adaptability has become not just a virtue, but a necessity. The ability to bend, to shift, to adjust to new circumstances is no longer optional. It is the very thing that determines whether we thrive or merely survive. Adaptability is without question one of the most essential skills that we can cultivate. And it is precisely this quality that allows us to face the challenges of life, not just with resilience, but with strength, vision, and an unwavering sense of possibility. The world does not wait for us to get comfortable. It is constantly moving forward, and those who fail to keep up are left behind. But the ones who understand the importance of flexibility, who can bend without breaking, are the ones who will not only survive in this ever-changing world, they will thrive. When we talk about adaptability, we are talking about the ability to face the unknown with open eyes, to take on new challenges with an open heart, and to remain grounded no matter how much the world around us shifts. The person who adapts is the person who grows, the one who learns from every situation, no matter how difficult it may seem. Life will inevitably present us with obstacles, disruptions, and hardships. But it is how we respond to these disruptions that shapes our future. The ability to change, to adjust our perspective and approach when things don't go as planned is the key to success. As Charles Darwin so aptly put it, it is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. In other words, it is not about being the best, the smartest, or the most talented. It is about being the most adaptable, the one who can move with the currents rather than against them. Think about the times in your life when you were forced to adapt, when you faced a challenge that you didn't see coming, or when you were thrown into a situation that required you to learn quickly. At the time, it may have felt uncomfortable, perhaps even overwhelming, but looking back, those moments of discomfort were the very ones that shaped you into the person you are today. Those challenges, though difficult in the moment, taught you something invaluable, that you are capable of more than you realize. You may not have had all the answers, but you found a way to move forward. You didn't let the circumstances dictate your fate. You adapted, and in doing so, you grew. Now, imagine how much further you could go if you approached every challenge with the same mindset, that no matter what happens, you will adapt, learn, and grow. This is the mindset of those who succeed, not just in business, but in life. The people who are able to move forward in the face of adversity are the ones who understand the importance of adaptability. They don't resist change. They embrace it. They look at the challenges that come their way not as threats, but as opportunities to evolve. And as a result, they are able to achieve things that others could only dream of. Adaptability requires a certain kind of mindset. It requires us to understand that life is unpredictable and that nothing is guaranteed. It requires us to release the illusion of control and to trust that we are capable of navigating the uncertainty. Life will throw curveballs at us, and when that happens, we can either stand still and wait for things to return to normal, or we can adjust, innovate, and keep moving forward. The ability to adapt is not about being passive. It's not about waiting for things to change so that we can be comfortable. It's about actively engaging with the world around us, looking for solutions, and finding new ways to approach the obstacles that stand in our way. When we think of adaptability, we often think of flexibility, being able to bend without breaking. But adaptability is not just about bending in the face of pressure. It's about growth, evolution, and transformation. It's about becoming someone who is able to respond to the ever-changing world in a way that fosters growth, both personally and professionally. It's about seeing every new challenge as an opportunity to refine your skills, to expand your horizons, and to become more than you were yesterday. The most successful people are not the ones who are the most rigid, who cling to old habits and old ways of thinking. No, the most successful people are the ones who understand that growth comes from change, that progress comes from movement, and that movement comes from adaptability. They are the ones who are willing to step outside their comfort zones, to take risks, and to do what it takes to keep moving forward. They are the ones who understand that in order to grow, they must be willing to leave behind the familiar and embrace the unknown. As the author Tony Robbins once said, "The only limit to your impact is your imagination and commitment." And imagination and commitment are both fueled by the ability to adapt. Adaptability is also closely tied to resilience. The ability to bend, to adjust, to pivot when necessary is what allows us to withstand the inevitable storms that life throws our way. But resilience is not just about bouncing back from adversity. It's about bouncing forward. It's about using the difficulties we face as stepping stones to reach new heights. It's about embracing the struggle, understanding that every challenge we face is an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more capable. Life will always present us with obstacles. The key is not to avoid them, but to rise to the occasion, to meet them head on with the knowledge that we are capable of adapting and thriving no matter what. There is also great power in adaptability because it fosters innovation. When we are adaptable, we become more open to new ideas, new approaches, and new perspectives. We stop relying solely on what we already know, and we begin to explore the world with a sense of curiosity and openness. This is the mindset that allows us to discover new solutions to old problems, to create new paths when the ones we've been following no longer serve us. It is through adaptability that we unlock our creative potential, that we open ourselves up to new possibilities, and that we expand our understanding of what is possible. To adapt is to acknowledge that we are always evolving. The world is constantly changing, and if we want to keep up, we must be willing to change with it. We must be willing to challenge our own assumptions, to let go of the things that no longer serve us, and to embrace the unknown with the knowledge that it is through change that we find our true potential. Adaptability is the key to unlocking a future full of possibility. It is the force that allows us to navigate the unknown, to move through uncertainty, and to emerge on the other side stronger, wiser, and more capable than we were before. It is, in essence, the ability to rise to the challenge of life, no matter how unpredictable, no matter how difficult. And in doing so, we unlock a world of infinite potential. Life is an intricate web of constant motion, change, and transformation. Change is not something that can be controlled or avoided. It's a force of nature, like the tides, the seasons, or the inevitable passage of time. You can't stop it, you can't prevent it, and if you attempt to do so, you'll be standing in the way of something far larger than yourself. So the real question isn't how we can halt change, but rather how we can move with it. How can we learn to face it, embrace it, and use it as a stepping stone to become the person we were always meant to be? The answer lies in this simple truth. Change is inevitable, but growth is a choice. You see, when change knocks at your door, it often comes disguised as uncertainty or discomfort. It presents itself as a challenge, an obstacle, or even a threat to the stability we cling to. But what if, instead of fearing change, we understood it as an opportunity to evolve, to refine our character, and to develop into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable? What if, instead of resisting change, we welcomed it, not as something that weakens us, but as something that can elevate us? We all want stability. Stability provides comfort, certainty, and security. But stability, when it becomes an obsession, can become a prison. The very nature of being human means that we are bound to outgrow the familiar, bound to move past the routines and patterns that once worked for us. The danger isn't in the change itself. The real danger lies in becoming so attached to the old ways that we miss the chance to embrace what is coming next. As the saying goes, the only thing that is constant in life is change. It's how we approach this constant change that determines the course of our lives. Many people fear change because they fear the unknown, and that fear is rooted in the very human desire to control the future. We want to know that everything will be okay, that we won't stumble, that we won't fall. But the truth is that certainty is an illusion. The future is never predictable, and the more we cling to the idea that we can control it, the more paralyzed we become when we face its unpredictability. Instead of fearing what we cannot control, we must learn to embrace the uncertainty with the confidence that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way. The unknown doesn't have to be a threat. It can be a canvas for creativity, a stage for growth, and an arena where we can test the limits of our potential. The moment we begin to realize that change isn't an adversary but an ally, everything shifts. You see, every change, no matter how small, carries within it the seeds of growth. It offers us a chance to reflect, to assess where we are, and to make a decision about where we want to go. Each challenge we face, whether personal or professional, gives us the opportunity to develop new skills, to build resilience, and to grow in ways we never imagined. It's not the circumstances we face that define us. It's how we choose to respond to them. When change arrives, don't shrink back in fear or anger. Don't curse the world for throwing obstacles in your path. Instead, lean into it, embrace it. Say to yourself, this is my chance to become more than I was before. This is the opportunity I've been waiting for. You see, this is where the power lies, not in the avoidance of change, but in our willingness to grow through it. You may not have chosen the challenge, but you always have a choice in how you meet it. But there is a profound strength in recognizing that the hardest parts of life often lead to the most significant transformations. Consider how the caterpillar becomes the butterfly. It must go through a painful process of shedding its old skin, struggling in the cocoon, and facing the unknown before it can emerge as something entirely new. The transformation isn't easy. In fact, it's quite uncomfortable. But without it, the butterfly would never be able to soar. In the same way, without the discomfort of change, we too would remain tethered to the ground, never experiencing the full breadth of our capabilities. You may face moments of doubt, moments when you wonder if you're strong enough to face the change ahead. You may even wish for things to stay the same, for the familiar comforts of the past to return. But understand this, the future is calling you forward, and the only way to move forward is to let go of what no longer serves you. This is the paradox of life. We must be willing to release our grip on the past to make space for the future, to let go of the things that are holding us back, and to step into the unknown with a heart full of courage. Growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens when we allow ourselves to experience the full spectrum of life. The highs and the lows, the joy and the pain, the moments of clarity and the periods of confusion. If you are willing to face change head on, to acknowledge the fear and still move forward, you will find yourself becoming someone more than you ever thought possible. So I urge you to ask yourself, how will you respond when change comes knocking? Will you see it as an enemy to be fought, or as a partner that will help you rise to the next level of your existence? Will you continue to hide in the shadows of what you know, or will you take the brave step into the light of what could be? The choice is yours, and it begins the moment you decide to embrace the inevitable with open arms. Remember, change is not something that happens to us. It is something that happens for us. Life doesn't throw challenges our way to break us, but to build us. You are stronger than you think, more capable than you know, and more resilient than you can imagine. It is through change that we unlock our true potential. When you learn to embrace change with confidence, you discover not just who you are, but who you are becoming. And in that discovery, you will find a version of yourself that you never thought possible. Fear. It's a feeling that strikes us all at some point in our lives. It's the cold, uncomfortable grip that tightens when we step into the unknown, when we face a challenge that seems too big, too overwhelming. It stops us in our tracks, preventing us from moving forward. But what if I told you that fear, this powerful emotion that we often try to avoid, is not something to be feared itself, but rather something to be understood, harnessed, and even celebrated? What if, instead of seeing fear as a barrier, we saw it as a powerful force that can propel us toward growth, toward progress, and toward becoming who we are truly meant to be? Fear, in its essence, is not the enemy. It is, in fact, a guide, a signal, an indicator that we are on the precipice of something new, something challenging, something that will require us to step up and grow. We live in a world that constantly tells us to avoid discomfort, to sidestep anything that feels risky or uncertain. We're told that safety is the highest priority, that avoiding fear and the unknown is the key to happiness. But what we fail to realize is that in avoiding fear, we are also avoiding the opportunities that fear presents. Fear signals that we are about to stretch beyond our current limits, that we are about to step outside of our comfort zone and into a space where true growth happens. The reality is this: fear is not a signal to retreat, but a signal to advance. It's an invitation to confront something bigger than ourselves, to rise to the occasion and to become stronger, smarter, and more resilient in the process. We have all experienced that feeling of fear when facing a new challenge, whether it's a big decision in our personal lives, a career change, or the prospect of standing up and speaking in front of others. Fear inevitably rears its head, and in that moment we are faced with a choice. We can allow fear to paralyze us, or we can choose to see it for what it truly is, a signal that something important is on the horizon. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself, Franklin D. Roosevelt famously said. And in those words we find a profound truth. Fear is not an adversary, it's an illusion, a mental construct designed to keep us within the bounds of the familiar, the safe, and the known. But the very act of stepping into the unknown, of confronting that fear head on, is where we discover our true strength. Think about any great achievement in history, whether it be in the fields of science, art, or personal transformation. It all began with a leap into the unknown, with the willingness to face fear and doubt. Albert Einstein, for instance, once said, "Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new." At the heart of every great innovation, every breakthrough, is the courage to face the unknown, to look fear in the eye, and to take action despite it. It is through these moments of courage that we break free from the confines of the old and venture into the realm of the new. Now, I'm not suggesting that fear doesn't come with real consequences or that it's always easy to push through. No, fear is real and it can be overwhelming. But what I am suggesting is that it's not fear itself that holds us back, it's our reaction to it. It's how we interpret it, how we allow it to shape our decisions. Fear can either be a wall that stops us dead in our tracks, or it can be a stepping stone that pushes us to go further than we thought possible. The key is in how we choose to engage with fear. Do we let it control us, or do we take control and use it as fuel to move forward? The choice is ours, and it starts with the understanding that fear is not something to be avoided, but something to be faced and embraced. The fact is, we are all capable of far more than we think, but most of us never fully tap into that potential because we allow fear to dictate our actions. We let it tell us what we can and cannot do. We make decisions based on the comfort of what we know, rather than on the possibility of what could be. But when we stop listening to the voice of fear, when we stop letting it hold us back, we begin to see that our capacity to achieve, to create, and to grow is limitless. Fear becomes the fire that fuels our ambition, the challenge that sharpens our will, the force that pushes us to rise higher. It's important to understand that fear does not disappear simply because we want it to. The goal is not to rid ourselves of fear, but to change how we respond to it. As the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche famously said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." When we have a sense of purpose, when we are driven by a vision of who we want to become, fear becomes less of an obstacle and more of a motivator. It becomes the push we need to move beyond our current limitations and towards something greater. It's no longer a barrier. It's a challenge we are willing to face no matter how daunting it may seem. Take a moment to think about the last time you faced a fear and overcame it. It might have been a small victory, or perhaps it was a life-changing moment. But in either case, the result was the same. You grew, you stretched, you moved beyond what you thought was possible. That moment of fear became the very catalyst for your transformation. And here's the beautiful thing. Each time you face fear and come out the other side, you become more confident, more capable, and more resilient. Fear no longer controls you. You control it. It becomes a part of your journey, a signal that you are on the right path, that you are becoming the person you are meant to be. I want to leave you with this thought. Fear is not your enemy. It is a messenger, a guide that signals your potential for growth. Instead of running from it, learn to move toward it. Don't let it control your decisions. Let it push you to do what you know you are capable of. The greatest breakthroughs, the greatest accomplishments happen when we face our fear, when we take that first step into the unknown, when we move forward with courage, even in the face of uncertainty. This is the challenge of life. This is the opportunity. And it is waiting for you to rise to it.